She said, "Don't call me your future wife. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and may the power of Reddit stories be with you." I nodded. That night, while she slept, I quietly deleted my name from every list she'd built her campaign on. 2 days later, she walked into her own engagement party and handed me an envelope she thought would break me. Stick around, because what was inside that envelope is the reason her campaign doesn't exist anymore. The envelope on my chair was black, leather, gold foil lettering pressed into the front. "Open it," Vivian said from the podium, grinning into the microphone. I was standing in the Brown Palace Hotel's grand ballroom in downtown Denver, 300 people watching me, and I felt my throat close. This was supposed to be my engagement celebration. Our engagement celebration. Except Vivian hadn't introduced me as her fiancé a single time that night. She'd called me my good friend Beckett 4 times in the last hour. Now she was pointing at me like I was part of the entertainment. "Go on, Beckett, open it. I promise it's not a breakup letter." The room laughed. I picked up the envelope. My hands were steady. That surprised me. Inside was a single card, heavy stock, expensive. "Thank you for your generous support of Vivian Reyes's mayoral campaign. Your contribution of $850,000 has been noted. We look forward to your continued patronage." Underneath, in Vivian's handwriting, "You've been such a good little donor. Don't worry, I'll find someone worthy of standing beside me." The room went quiet. I looked up at Vivian. She was smiling, waiting for me to break down, to make a scene she could spin later. He got emotional. Poor thing. Instead, I smiled back. "You're right," I said, loud enough to carry. "You do need someone worthy." I walked out. Behind me, I heard confused, murmuring, Vivian's voice calling my name. Sweet, concerned, her camera voice. In the parking garage, I sat in my 12-year-old Subaru Outback and made 3 phone calls. The first was to my attorney. "Marcus, it's Beckett Calloway. Execute the extraction protocol on Vivian Reyes. Everything." Tonight, Marcus Doyle had been my family's attorney for 23 years, a former federal prosecutor and now senior partner at Doyle & Whitfield. "Understood," he said. The Super PAC funding terminated before midnight. The campaign headquarters lease. Her name's on it, but my trust owns the building. Eviction proceedings start tomorrow, legal minimum notice. Staff salaries run through the Reyes Campaign Fund, which the Calloway Foundation funds entirely, cutting off transfers now. Media consultant contracts void immediately. Breach of the moral character clause. I'll send documentation. I hung up. The second call went to my cousin, Dr. Renee Calloway, Chief of Staff at Denver Metropolitan Hospital. She'd been asking me to join the hospital's board for 2 years. "Renee, I'm ready to accept that board seat. But there's something you should know about one of your donors first." The third call went to my grandfather, Harlan Calloway, former U.S. Secretary of Commerce, current CEO of Calloway Holdings, the kind of man who had governors on speed dial. "Beckett," he said, voice warm. "How's the engagement party?" "It's over." Silence. "What happened?" She called me her good friend in front of 300 people, then joked about how much I've given her campaign. "That girl has no idea who you are, does she?" "No, sir." "Good. Keep it that way until tomorrow. Then burn her house down. Legally. Already started." He laughed, sharp, satisfied. "That's my grandson. Call me when it's done." I drove home through the rain, watching the Rocky Mountains disappear behind fog, and felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Just clarity. 8 months earlier, though I didn't recognize it at the time, this had already started going wrong. I met Vivian at a fundraiser in Cherry Creek. She was running for city council. Young, ambitious, photogenic, the kind of candidate who tested well in every focus group. I was there representing my family's foundation, which had quietly funded the venue. No recognition expected. That was the point. Vivian approached me first. "You look bored," she said, champagne in hand. We ended up talking policy for 2 hours. Housing, displacement, urban planning. And I fell for her vision before I fell for her. When she asked for my number, I gave it to her. Our first date was Thai food in Reno. She insisted on splitting the check, said she didn't believe in traditional gender roles. Our second was a walk through the Denver Botanic Gardens, where she laid out her whole plan for the city. Real, detailed, ambitious. By month 3, we were serious. She met my parents, believing they were retired teachers, which was technically true before my grandfather recruited them into the family business. She never asked what that business actually was. I never volunteered it. Operational security. Keep your private life private. My grandfather's rules. I'd lived by them for 29 years. By month 6, Vivian was running for mayor, an aggressive leap from city council, but her polling was strong, and I was in love, so when she asked for help with the campaign, I said yes. I set up a super PAC through my family's foundation. Nothing illegal. Legally transparent, but structured so the money traced back to the Callaway Foundation without highlighting that I was a Callaway. Vivian thought the foundation simply liked her policies. She had no idea I was the foundation. I leased her a headquarters, prime real estate in Reno, 20,000 square feet. She thought she'd landed a sweetheart deal from a friendly landlord. She didn't know my trust owned the entire building. I hired her senior staff, connected her to consultants, introduced her to donors who actually mattered. She thought I was well connected. She didn't know I was the connection. I told myself it was fine, that I was supporting her vision, that she'd earned the help. The truth was simpler. I was in love, and I was hiding who I was because I wanted to be loved for who I was, not what I had. Classic mistake. The first red flag came in March. We were at headquarters late at night. Vivian stressed over polling numbers. "I need a bigger media buy," she said, staring at spreadsheets. "But we're tapped out. The foundation maxed our contribution limit." "There are other donors," I said carefully. "I've called everyone. Nobody commits until they see movement in the polls." "What about? Personal wealth?" She looked at me. "Beckett, I don't have personal wealth. My parents are accountants. I work in nonprofit development. This campaign is bankrupting me. Are you offering to help with what? You're a policy consultant. You make, what, 60 grand a year?" I'd never told her I was a policy consultant. She'd assumed it. I let her. "I actually own my condo outright," I could have said. Instead, "I'll figure something out." That night, I transferred another $200,000 into the Super PIAS, routed through 3 intermediary organizations. Completely legal. Completely invisible. Her media buy went through. She never asked where the money came from. I told myself her not asking was a kind of trust. I needed that lie at the time. The truth was she didn't ask because she'd already decided the answer didn't matter. Only the result did. I was a faucet. You don't thank a faucet. You just turn it when you're thirsty and forget it exists the rest of the day. The second red flag came in May, at a $1,000 a plate donor dinner. I'd bought a table, filled it with family and friends doing me a favor. When Vivian reached us, something shifted. "This is Beckett," she told a major donor, hand on my shoulder. "Helps with policy research. Very detail-oriented, like I was her assistant." Polite laughter. I forced a smile. Later, I brought it up. "Why'd you introduce me like that? Like I'm your intern?" "You're being sensitive. It was a donor event. I need them to see me as professional, not as someone who brings her partner to work." "We're engaged. That's personal. This was business." She kissed my cheek and went to bed. I sat on her couch trying to convince myself she was right. Something in my chest had gone cold. The next morning, I sat in my car outside the headquarters before sunrise. My building, my lease, my money keeping the lights on, and watched staff I'd hired badge into a door I owned, and not one of them knew my name. Quiet money, no recognition expected. That was the rule. But sitting there in the dark, I finally understood. There's a difference between being private and being erased. Don't call me your future wife. The third red flag came in July. Vivian's campaign was pulling ahead in 3 polls. Major endorsements were rolling in. She was getting real media attention. Interviews, podcasts, a magazine profile. Mile High Monthly ran a spread on her authentic life. Her apartment, her campaign office, her jogging route through Wash Park. I wasn't in a single photo. The article mentioned she was focused on her career, not romantic distractions. When I asked her about it, she shrugged. "The photographer wanted to include you." I said no. Why? Because it would raise questions. Who is he? What does he do? How'd we meet? And frankly, Beckett, your story isn't interesting enough to help the campaign. My hands went cold. My story. "You're a policy consultant. You volunteer for progressive causes. That's great, but it doesn't add anything to my narrative. I'm protecting you from scrutiny. If people start digging into your family or your finances, it could create problems." "What kind of problems?" "The kind where people accuse me of nepotism or being funded by secret money." I almost laughed. "Vivian, you are being funded by secret money." "What?" "The Super PIAC, the foundation donations, the headquarters lease. Where do you think all of that came from?" She stared at me. "From people who believe in my vision. People, not person." "Vivian, what are you saying?" I nearly told her everything. That I was the Callaway behind the Callaway Foundation. That my family's money had built half of downtown Denver. That I could make or break her campaign with a single phone call. Something stopped me. Pride, stubbornness, the desperate hope she'd see me without needing to know my net worth. "Nothing," I said. "Forget it." She studied me, then smiled. "You're stressed. Why don't you take a few days off from volunteering? Recharge. I'll handle things." Take a few days off from supporting the campaign I'd funded, from helping the candidate I'd built. "Sure," I said. Good idea. She didn't notice when I didn't come back for a week. The fourth red flag, the one that should have been the last, came in August. Vivian's campaign manager quit without warning. I need someone who knows this campaign inside and out, she panicked. I could help, I said. Beckett? No. This is a professional position. You've never done campaign management, strategy, fundraising. I'd been doing all of it for 8 months. She just never saw it. She hired a consultant from Chicago instead. Priya Malhotra, sharp, expensive, immediately suspicious of the building lease. Who's the landlord? She asked in a meeting I sat in on. Some trust, Vivian said. Callaway Holdings, or something. Priya's eyes narrowed. That's one of the biggest development firms in the state. They don't give sweetheart deals to campaigns. Vivian shrugged it off, but Priya kept looking my way. That night, she pulled me aside. You've been around since the beginning. The cheap building, the consultants who show up from nowhere, the donors in clusters. Somebody's carrying this campaign and hiding it. I just shrugged. She was the only person in 8 months who'd come that close. Vivian never did. The engagement party was Vivian's idea. We need to formalize our relationship publicly, she said in September. Show donors I'm stable, ready for leadership. I thought you wanted to keep our relationship private. That was before. Now I'm the front runner. People want the whole package. We spent 2 weeks planning. Vivian invited 300 people. Donors, politicians, journalists, community leaders. I invited no one. Don't you want your family there? She asked. They're low-key people, not their scene. The truth was simpler. I didn't want my grandfather showing up and accidentally revealing who I was. I was still hoping Vivian would see me first. The week before the party, we argued over the seating chart, which donors sat where, whether my name belonged anywhere near the head table. Vivian set down her pen. Beckett, she said, don't call me your future wife in front of these people. Not yet. Not until after the primary. I nodded. I didn't argue. I just nodded, and something in me, the part that had spent 8 months shrinking, finally went quiet. That night, while she slept, I opened my laptop. Every donor list, every contract, every line of infrastructure with my money behind it and my name buried underneath. And I began, very quietly, to take my name off all of it. The party was held at the Brown Palace. Vivian's choice. Iconic, historic, perfect for photos. The bill was $23,000, paid through a shell company. Vivian thought a donor had covered it. I arrived early in my best suit, navy, well-fitted, nothing flashy. Vivian was already holding court with reporters, stunning in red, the kind of woman who photographed like a magazine cover. When she saw me, she smiled, but her eyes flicked to a photographer behind me, and the smile shifted, became performative. Beckett, she said, kissing my cheek. You made it, of course. Go mingle. I need to finish these interviews. I mingled with donors I'd recruited, staff I'd hired, consultants I'd connected her to. None of them knew who I was. One donor shook my hand. So how do you know Vivian? Policy work, I said, and he moved on to someone more important. Standing there with a drink I wasn't drinking, I almost told a stranger my own name just to hear someone understand it. I didn't. Old habit. But the rule my grandfather gave me to protect myself had become the exact thing Vivian used to disappear me. At 7, Vivian took the stage. This campaign has been incredible, and it's because of people like you. Applause. I also want to acknowledge someone special. My good friend Beckett, who's been such a wonderful supporter. She pointed at me. Good friend. Not fiancé. Not partner. Friend. The room clapped politely. I felt something crack in my chest. Beckett's helped with policy research, volunteer coordination, all the unglamorous work that makes campaigns run. He's been a great asset to the team. Asset to the team. I looked at my hand. The engagement ring I'd bought her sat on her finger, but she hadn't mentioned our engagement once. After the speech, I found her in the back hallway. You called me your friend? What? You introduced me as your good friend, not your fiancé. She blinked. Oh, right. I thought about saying fiancé, but it felt too personal for a campaign event. This is our engagement party. It's a donor appreciation event that doubles as our engagement party. You invited 300 people to celebrate our engagement and didn't mention we're engaged. Her expression hardened. Beckett, don't do this. Not tonight. Do what? Make everything about you. This is my night, my campaign, my moment. I thought it was our moment. It would be if you'd done anything worth acknowledging. The words hit like a physical blow. Excuse me? Look, I appreciate what you do, really. But let's be honest, you're a volunteer, a policy researcher. You're not a major donor, not a political operative. You're not someone these people need to know. I have to be smart about optics. If I introduce you as my fiancé, people ask questions. What does he do? How much does he make? Is he using her for access? I can't afford those questions right now. So you're hiding me. I'm protecting both of us. I'm not your accessory. I'm your fiancé, and that's beautiful. But tonight, can you please just let me have this moment? I looked at her, really looked, and saw someone I didn't recognize. Sure, I said quietly. Have your moment? I walked back into the ballroom. That's when I saw the black leather envelope on my chair, the thank you note about my generous donation. A private joke. A reminder that my role was to write checks, not stand beside her. I opened it in front of everyone, read the note, felt 300 pairs of eyes on me, and left. Marcus called at midnight. It's done. Super PAC funding terminated, lease voided, staff contracts canceled, campaign account frozen. She'll wake up to a very different financial reality tomorrow. What about the media consultants? Pulling their teams. Breach of contract. They'll announce it publicly. Makes them look principled. Good. Beckett, you know this is going to destroy her campaign. She has nothing without your infrastructure. I thought about the envelope. 8 months of pretending I was small so she could feel big. The way she'd said, "Don't call me your future wife," and watched me nod. I know. One more thing. Your grandfather asked me to prepare a press statement in case this becomes news. Hold it. Don't release it unless she makes this public first. I hung up and sat in the dark, watching the mountains disappear into the night, the press statement open on my laptop. I didn't sleep. If she stayed quiet, this could still be clean. But I knew her. I knew she wouldn't stay quiet. People who treat others as invisible never believe the invisible can speak. And she didn't stay quiet. By the next morning, the story was already breaking. And what she said publicly is what finally ended her career. The Ember Room. The next morning, my phone exploded. Texts from Vivian, calls, voicemails. Beckett, what happened? The campaign account is frozen. The headquarters is being evicted. The consultants are backing out. Call me. I didn't answer. Instead, I met Renee at Denver Metropolitan Hospital. I'm thrilled you're joining the board, she said, though this is going to make waves. You're a Calloway who's been invisible for years. She studied me. What happened? Someone needed to learn what I'm worth. My ex-fiancé. Renee's smile went sharp. Good. She never deserved you. The board announcement went out that afternoon, small and buried in a hospital press release. But in Denver, small announcements travel fast. By 5, reporters were calling. By 7, someone had connected Calloway Holdings to Vivian's headquarters lease. By 8, the story broke. Denver mayoral candidate loses major financial backing after personal dispute. Sources confirmed the Calloway Foundation, primary funder of Vivian Reyes's mayoral campaign, had withdrawn all support following an undisclosed incident. The foundation had contributed nearly $850,000 through a super PAC. Beckett Calloway, grandson of former Commerce Secretary Harlan Calloway, had recently been engaged to Reyes. The engagement had reportedly ended. Vivian called 17 times that night. I didn't answer. Day 2 brought the collapse. Vivian's campaign released a statement claiming the Calloway Foundation's funding was never conditional on my personal relationship with me and questioned the ethics of using donor money as leverage. Wrong move. Marcus fired back within the hour. The foundation had withdrawn support over concerns about Miss Reyes's character and integrity and a pattern of behavior inconsistent with our values. The kind of language that makes donors nervous. 3 more donors pulled out by afternoon. By evening, Priya Malhotra resigned, saying she could no longer work for a candidate who misrepresents her relationships and funding sources to voters. Her opponent released a single line praising transparency in public life, a knife dressed as a compliment. A digital ad surfaced by nightfall. Vivian at a podium saying, "I built this myself," cut against a chyron listing the Calloway Foundation's contributions. It ran for free, shared by strangers, because nothing travels faster than a self-made story coming apart in public. Staff quit. Her polling dropped 12 points in 3 days. She still didn't understand why. The lunch was damage control, a grassroots supporter appreciation event at a restaurant called the Ember Room, 50 small-dollar donors, advertised as intimate and authentic. I wasn't invited. Marcus called that morning. "Vivian's planning a speech today about you. She's going to paint herself as the victim, you as the vindictive ex sabotaging her campaign. A wealthy man trying to destroy a self-made woman." My jaw tightened. She's going to lie publicly. Then I need to be there. I was hoping you'd say that. Bring Spencer from litigation. And Beckett, wear the Navy suit, the one you wore to your grandfather's dinner at the governor's mansion. Why? Because you need to look like who you actually are. I arrived at noon. Through the glass wall, I could see Vivian inside, smiling, shaking hands. Spencer Cole, 8 years at Doyle and Whitfield, former federal prosecutor, the kind of attorney who made judges nervous, handed me a black leather folder. Documentation's thorough. Wire transfers, lease agreements, communication logs, everything time-stamped and notarized. I walked in. Conversation stopped. Vivian froze mid-sentence, then recovered, her public smile clicking into place. Beckett, what a surprise! I wasn't invited. I thought I should hear what you have to say. I took a seat in the back, Marcus and Spencer flanking me. Vivian's movements grew less confident. She lost her place mid-sentence twice and laughed it off. Her supporters didn't notice. I did. At 12:30, she stood to speak. These past few days have been difficult. My campaign faced unexpected financial challenges when a major donor withdrew support. Sympathetic murmurs. What you might not know is that donor was my former fiancé, Beckett Calloway. She gestured at me. I cared about him deeply. But when I chose to keep our personal lives separate from my campaign, when I chose to maintain my independence, he used his family's wealth to punish me. The room gasped. He withdrew nearly $1 million, evicted my headquarters, used his connections to destroy my relationships with consultants and media, all because I wouldn't let him control me. Actual tears now. This is what self-made candidates face. When we refuse to be bought, the people with money try to destroy us. Applause. People standing. She looked at me. Beckett, if you're here to intimidate me, it won't work. I'm not afraid of you or your family's money. I'm going to rebuild this campaign, because Denver deserves a leader who can't be bought. The room erupted. I waited for it to settle, then stood. May I respond? This isn't really a debate format. It's not a debate. It's a clarification. I walked to the front, Marcus handing me the folder. My name is Beckett Calloway. Most of you don't know me. That was intentional. I prefer to work quietly. Let the work speak for itself. I opened the folder. For 8 months, I supported Vivian's campaign, not just financially, but structurally. I leased her headquarters through my family's trust. I connected her with consultants, helped shape her policy platform, introduced her to the donors who became her biggest contributors. I held up the first document. Here's the wire transfer for the initial Super PAC funding. $200,000, February 14th. Another. The lease agreement. Calloway Holdings to Reyes for mayor, $14,000 a month for a space worth $40,000. Another. Consultant contracts, media strategy, digital advertising, all paid through the Calloway Foundation, all at my direction. The room went silent. The donor ledger. 47 contributors across this campaign's 3 largest fundraisers. I introduced 31 of them personally. Most of you in this room were invited to events I paid for, in a building I own, to support a candidate my family funded. That's not an accusation. It's just the paperwork. Vivian's face had gone white. Vivian told you I withdrew funding to punish her for maintaining her independence. That's not accurate. I pulled up a photo on my phone. This is the envelope I found on my chair at our engagement party. A party she invited 300 people to but never mentioned we were engaged. It thanked me for my generous donation and told me she'd find someone worthy of standing beside her. She put it there as a joke. A reminder that my role was to fund her campaign, not stand beside her as her partner. I looked at her. You called me your good friend that night, not your fiancé, because acknowledging our relationship would make you look weak to donors. A week before the party, you told me privately, don't call me your future wife. I looked at you. You told me I wasn't interesting enough to help your campaign, that my story wasn't worth telling. Beckett, I didn't mean. You meant exactly that. And that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion of me. You're not entitled to my money, my family's connections, or my continued support while you humiliate me publicly. I turned to the room. I didn't withdraw funding to punish Vivian for being independent. I withdrew it because she treated me like an ATM while presenting herself as self-made. She built this campaign on my family's infrastructure while telling voters she'd done it alone. She used the word power 3 times in her speech, so let me be clear about something. I never asked her for a vote, a policy, or a seat at any table. I asked to be called her fiancé at a party I paid for. That's the entire crime she's describing. I set down one final document. This is a statement from Priya Malhotra, her former campaign manager, who resigned because, quote, candidate Reyes systematically misrepresented the sources and extent of her campaign funding, creating ethical concerns about transparency and honesty with voters. Silence. Then someone in the back started clapping, slowly. Others joined. Not everyone, but enough. I closed the folder and handed it to the nearest reporter. It's all in there. Every number, every signature, every date. You don't have to take my word for anything. I walked toward the door. Vivian called after me. Beckett, wait. Please, let me explain. I stopped. Turned. You had 8 months to explain. To see me. To introduce me as your fiancé instead of your intern. You made your choice the night you told me not to call you my future wife. I just listened. I made a mistake. You made a lot of mistakes. But the biggest one was thinking I'd stay invisible forever. I walked out into the bright October sun. Behind me, the room was already turning. Chairs scraping, voices rising, a candidate standing alone at a podium with no one left to applaud.